mattresses made of. And this is the centre of the secession, which is the Jugendstil, the Art Nouveau. And this is really where it all started with Gustav Klimt. So he arrives at the academy, Schiele, and he becomes friends with Gustav Klimt. And Gustav Klimt inspires him. He starts doing pictures of himself. There's only one person, apparently, who has painted more pictures of himself. Rembrandt, who's absolutely obsessed with what he looks like. Often, what he looks like holding his own genitals and things like that. But
not after my own heart.
Exactly. And this is Gustav Klimt, painted by Schiele. See the same embroidery there on the shoulders. Now they had a very close relationship. He was the older man, nurturing the younger artist. And they shared lots of things. They shared models, they shared ideas, they copied each other, or mainly Schiele copied Klimt to begin with. They shared also, here this is them together. Sorry about the quality, but this is Schiele here, this is Klimt here. They both painted the same lady. This is a Jewish lady. There were two, Federica Maria Beer. This is 2 years earlier, but wearing the same clothes she bought in Peru, some pajamas. But you can see the difference, that this is, Schiele often painted people in isolation. He would not do backgrounds. He would leave a woman hanging there, or a man hanging there. Klimt, slightly different. He fills it in with lots of sort of little, Mongolian warlords.
What did Freud say about that?
But the most important thing that they shared was a woman. Valeria Neugil. No one's quite sure who she was. That's my excuse for not having researched her very long. And she has some similarities to his sister, Gertrude. She was probably the mistress of Klimt, given to Schiele. She was probably about 15, probably at that time models, prostitutes, servants, friends, lovers were often all the same person.
Don't you change?
And he painted her again and again. He spent most of his young life with this lady. Some of the famous pictures. She had tremendous eyes. Some of the research says that he made her look perhaps a little better than she was, which is a bit harsh. This is again.
What's she doing there?
I don't know. She's looking for a purse.
It's got dry.
She's got a pitch.
This one's important because this is him, Schiele, painting her in a mirror. Now the important thing here is Schiele. We'd already talked about this self-obsessed person. He's looking at himself. He's not looking at her, which not many people would do in that situation, but he's obviously more obsessed with himself. Now, as any good artist or bad artist, he didn't live in an exclusive relationship with his passionate girlfriend. This is some of the pictures. As you can see, isolated, no background, doesn't use very much colour. I find, paintings like this, they're often very, 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 very erotic, because you see certain parts of the body, but they're often very still pictures. They're very still pictures. There's not a lot happening. It's people holding poses and not sort of actively engaging in intercourse, which is always one of the problems of painting people like that. See, they're still, always slightly thin. One of his points was, one of Schiele's points, I think, was that everyone was sexual. There were loads of, I was discussing just now, there were loads of pictures of naked women, but they were always, naked men, but they were always holding a vase, or going like this, like Aphrodite or Venus or Diana. For the first time he goes, no, you can be sexual and you don't have to disguise it behind Greek or Roman stories. Now he had some other lovers, and then there's a possibly the idea that he left Vienna because he got a girl pregnant, not Valerie. He went to Krumau, which is now called Český Krumlov, which is in the south of the Czech Republic. You may have been there, beautiful place. And he got quite depressed, and he painted the town. Stopped painting people, he painted the town. Dark waters, dark houses. If we just move on to the next one. Here, no people. Perhaps the shadow. This is the washing, and the wind blowing into the washing. Sunflowers. He had seen Van Gogh's picture of sunflowers, which you all know. This is not his version of it, but this is how he paints sunflowers. That's the sun. Sunflowers are called sunflowers because they turn to the sun. All of these are turned away from the sun. They're either bad sunflowers, bad painter, or he's making them. And the sun also looks, darker, probably more like the moon. And so this is a man who clearly wasn't very happy. He's sort of exiled away from Vienna, living in the countryside. Obviously, that's the version we all know. Next one. Also, in this, let's get back one. Sorry about this. That's his room, which is great if you're a writer. Because and then he woke up and he took the red book and he had a tomato and he sat on the red chair, And if you're trying to reconstruct someone's life, paintings like this are great. But as we saw, he'd also seen Van Gogh's painting, but it's nowhere near as vibrant, nowhere near as living as Van Gogh's work. If you want to be a painter, by the way, you probably need to set your room up like that. Now, the next tragedy in his life comes along. Sheila's little house, painting in this small village, becomes maybe like Brody House, a community for people to come through. And who starts coming? Children, just local children, and he starts painting them in a normal way. He also is doing his other painting with Valerie, and he leaves them around on the floor, these pictures like we've seen of erotic ladies, and then he paints one of the girls. Now, one of the girls is called Tatiana von Mossig. She comes round to his house, stays there, doesn't really do much, falls a bit in love with him, nothing happens. Tatiana's father comes round, goes, "What are you doing here? Oh, look at all these disgusting pictures." Tells the police. Sheila is arrested for initially abduction, stealing the girl, and then he's arrested for displaying pornography. He gets put in prison for 28 days. He is put in the courtroom. They burn one of his pictures. First time for centuries people have been censored and had their pictures burned. It's actually, ironically, the same court as is St. Pölten, which is where Josef Fritzl was, which is...
How strange.
Yeah, which is very, very, very strange. In prison, it absolutely demolishes him. He says, "I can't be doing with this," and he tries to get back to normality, tries to get back to Vienna. He starts painting portraits. This is his great mate who did everything to publicise him. This is a publisher. We look here, portraits, no naked flesh. This man is a doctor, philosopher.
How old is he by this point?
He's about 24, 23.
And how old was he when he died? Sorry?
28. So this is just before the First World War starts. He paints people. This guy's a painter. Here are my hands. This guy's a philosopher. Here are my books. These are great paintings, but they're different from what we've seen. Naked women in isolation. These are people surrounded by backgrounds. Lots of oil. Not these usual sketches which you see. So he makes money from painting portraits, and then he thinks, right, I'm with Valerie, this illegitimate, beautiful woman who isn't going to get me anywhere in society. Over the road lives Johann Harms. Johann Harms has two daughters, Edith